Hello, I'm Steve. A little about myself. I'm a retired law enforcement officer with 20 years of service. I began my career in the jail, worked the road, and became an investigator. During my career, my training consisted of everything from SWAT to becoming a state certified crime scene technician. I've investigated crimes from thefts to homicides. After retiring and becoming aware of true crime and web sleuths, I started my channel for web sleuths to better understand the perspectives of law enforcement. Not only do we cover true crime, I go out into the field and assist families who have lost loved ones to homicide and their cases are considered cold. Join me as we look and bring attention to these critical cases.
Hello, everyone. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Appreciate you being here. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the Delphi homicides. Richard Allen, who is currently incarcerated and awaiting trial. And we've seen this drama. It's been building up through the court systems since his arrest. And every court date turns over a new leaf of something that we think is something that is unique, but it's not in the court systems. And one of the things I want to talk about tonight specifically is some of the latest filings by the defense attorneys, setting the stage for whatever happens with the outcome of the trial. That attorneys do what attorneys do, both the prosecution and the defense attorneys, and they all do it for everything from theatrics all the way up to setting the what will happen after a jury comes in with a verdict. What are the options, and do we have appeals set, and how we try to cover all our bases, trying to set and stage what needs to be done during the early parts of the hearings and the trials. But anyway, I want to thank everybody for being here. And what will happen is Steve isn't with us tonight. She's down in Florida currently, and but she'll be back up this weekend, guys, and hopefully I can she won't be arriving until Saturday, but next week we'll have her over here, and I'm looking forward to that. But as we do our presentation, if you're new to chat, be respectful of the families, mods, and each other, and just throw your questions in there. I'll try to keep up the best I can as I operate this here Google machine by myself, and go through not only doing my presentation, but also trying to get all the questions answers as they appear. But absolutely appreciate everybody being here. And with that being said, if you have any information about this case, absolutely make sure that prosecution, the defense, law enforcement, whoever has that information that might be unique or might have a different contact or some new information that is not currently held by the law enforcement or the courts, because we want all the facts out there that's regarding this case, because there's been a lot of issues brought up and different possibilities as far as suspects, alternate suspects, and otherwise, and the number of suspects. Is it a lone wolf or is it multiple? But anyway, we're going to be talking specifically about bias. And if you don't know what bias is, of course, the attorneys, and we'll get into their document. Well, I'm going to give you the Cliff Note version of how I look at documents, and the as far as what the defense came out with is 22 pages long. I don't have time, and I'm not going to sit here and read to you 22 pages of legal lingo. And so I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version of how I look at when I look at things. And if I need further, I might read a little bit more. But typically, I try to get it down 22 pages down to, I could put it on a single page, but you wouldn't be able to read it. But anyway, bias. It's a showing an unreasonable like or dislike for someone or something based on personal opinions. And that's a tall order, because you can have biases, and there's nothing wrong with being biased, but it's when it's unreasonable. And I know that's kind of counter double speak, that you can have biases, but as far as you may like or dislike foods or something, and and you may speak and say, I don't like those or something. Is it truly meet the true definition of bias? Probably not, but a lot of people will use that word. But really, bias is a unreasonable like or dislike for someone or something based on personal opinions. And do I have biases? Absolutely. Does the court system, the judges, do they have biases? I've never met a judge yet that didn't have a bias. And do I think Judge Gull is biased? Absolutely. But biased for what reasons? And I have one statement, and when we that she made in a few months ago, that shows that she does have biases, but that bias is based upon what she wants, what she would like to have, and what she dislikes, and what she sees that might cause issue for justice, and we'll discuss that. But anyway, all right. Richard Allen, who is the accused person in these double homicide, has accused Judge Gull of bias, and he has asked her to recuse herself. Now, will she? I would wish that she would. I actually believe that would probably be the best thing for it. But when we discuss it and what her bias is for, and it's for justice for Richard Allen and for Libby and Abby, I know that when we have when we're talking about finding justice for Libby and Abby, the victims, it's through the court system, and the courts serve that purpose. And it also has to serve and protect the accused rights. And so we have a situation of where in the same term you say justice, and you're trying to find justice for Libby and Abby, and you're trying to find justice for the accused, so that either he's acquitted or he's found guilty of this. And if he's acquitted, we need to go out there and find who is the responsible party. If he is found guilty of it, then we have the guilty party, and we have to go with that. We've seen it throughout our history of when we have these controversial cases. And like I said, all judges, do I believe, have biases? Absolutely. Judges come from all different types of law and background. You can turn on your TV and you'll see every type of lawsuit imaginable, every type of attorney out there, from criminal to civils. You have patent attorneys. Everything in our lives are guided by how we look at the law and what we believe is doing the right thing, and living our lives trying not to impose upon others certain things, the evil deeds that certain individuals out there do. And the courts protect the victims and also protects the offenders until they're found, and then they're turned over to the state to serve their time if they're found guilty. But anyway, specifically talking about judicial bias. The affidavit for Richard Allen was filed just recently. Let me get this thing big enough where I can read it, guys. But anyway, it was filed on the 28th, and it says in the Carroll Circuit Court, and it comes now, Richard Allen swears and affirms the following statements that and reasons for disqualifications are true and accurate, and that I have either personal knowledge or have learned of these facts and reasons through my counsel, Rossi and Baldwin. And that's a pretty strong accusation. And when you look at the 22 pages, and we're going to look at the 22 pages, but we're not going to read them in great detail. But before I get too far along, let's see what's happening in the chat, see if there's any questions. I have to check chat every now and then to make sure we don't get too far behind, because I don't want to miss any questions. I got quite a few people in here already, so I probably won't be able to do all the recognitions, and I appreciate everybody being here. Be mindful and respectful while you're in there. I see mob crews coming in. Good. Hey, Molly. Hello, anybody from the mob crew. If it's your first time here, thank you for being here. And yes, we have some great chatters and great community here. Let's see. Don't see any questions yet, but I'm glad to see everybody here. See a few new names. And Laura Smith Clay, good to see you. And like I said, I won't be able to recognize everybody. I'll do the best I can, though. Fur Baby Love. Mrs. Steve will love that name. Fur Baby Love. Mrs. Steve is my wife, by the way. Everybody in our family is some version of Steve. We got Baby Steve, double alt, triple alt. Sarah Tequila. It's human nature. Absolutely. Everyone has certain that we learn it from our earliest childhood, from our parents. And if we look at our own family and our own views upon things, are they always fair? Nah, sadly. But we have to still appreciate opinions. King Wasabi said, a definition of bias is preconception. Absolutely. The reversal by the Supreme Court is a dismissal because she had no hearing to hear their defense as proof. She had predetermined her decision in his opinion. That's fair enough statement. And because you can't argue an opinion. When people say that this is what they're, just like I'll be showing you a statement that Judge Gull made that I base that, yes, she has a bias against these attorneys. But the way she says it and to who she says it tells me it's for the protection of Richard Allen. And I can appreciate that and understand it in those in that light. Serious. Good to see you. I'm not trying to get caught up a little bit. I try to keep up within 5 to 10 minutes. All right. So now let's get back into the presentation. These are my cliff notes. I took each of them. I think there's like 19 or 20 of these things. And when I look at these court documents, you know, you can go in there and these attorneys, as we saw in the Franks motion, you have all these word salads and everything are there certain things that are repetitive? And so I really don't get tied up in that. I get tied up in what is the key words or what is this section of it dedicated to? And that's what I did with this. Oh, let me see what, bear with me sometimes, guys, because I'm liable to turn things on and off. But the first one is that Judge Gull interfered with Richard Allen's attorney-client relationship. And of course, she had that in chamber meeting and absolutely said, this is, I'm not going to allow you to represent him. And so there's an interference there. But I also want you to think back of that. Who else might have started this ball rolling? And it's got to be shared among all the people within the court. You have the prosecution stepping in, and everyone has duties that when certain things are brought to the court's attention, they have to handle. And some people may interpret that as biases, but even the defense, they're not totally innocent on some of this stuff because they allow certain things to go, and they made certain statements and that certain things would happen and that we don't need this. Kind of skirting, the court in several ways, but that's fine. That's what attorneys do. Do I have any problem with that? No. I find it quite entertaining watching these attorneys maneuver and trying to make sure that the clients that they're representing on the defense side, whatever measures they've taken, and will they try to stretch every finding by a judge? Absolutely. And then on number 2, it says Judge Gull publicly and on the record disparaged defendant Allen's chosen attorneys. That's fair enough. But what part did those attorneys do to allow her? You know, it's one thing if you have a defense team that's absolutely by the book, haven't done anything, but what did you do? What did you allow that allowed this judge to say, hey, this is what you've done? And so there's, a little misbehavior there. But does that mean that the judge should do it publicly? Nah, but it happens. Judge Gull violated defendant Allen's due process rights. That's something that we will have to absolutely, that the Supreme Court and appeals will look at things like this to make sure, because due process rights are something that you don't mess with. And if Judge Gull has done something along those lines, it's an automatic appeal. It's not even something that, are they bringing it to the judge's attention that, yes, this is what you did and this is how we're interpreting it, and to make her question? Sure. Judge Gull engaged in critical stage proceedings in defendant's absence. And fair enough, he was not present during certain proceedings. And then number 5, Judge Gull failed to maintain impartiality and fairness. And so we'll have to see where that is. And like I said, it's just a Cliff Notes version of it. You can go and find it, pull it up. There's some excellent shows out there, Mob Crew, Criminality. There's a lot of creators out there that have them, and they go page by page by page. Judge Gull demonstrated bias towards the prosecution, which is a strange statement. Judge Gull made public misrepresentations on the record. Fair enough. Judge Gull engaged in ex parte communications. Judge Gull denied defendant Allen his Sixth Amendment right to counsel, and in doing so, denied his right to a speedy trial. The Supreme Court made mention of that as far as that of what that is. So if the Supreme Court didn't say and making finding on that, then that would be something that will have to be looked at again by the appeals court, but I don't think it will be. And then number 10, Judge Gull changed her ruling in a prior order when attorneys Rossi and Baldwin were reinstated. Okay. She was ordered to. Judge Gull discredited defendant Allen's defense strategy. And is that fair? Probably. Judge Gull committed violations of the Access to Court Records Act. And that's another thing that anytime a judge violates anything as far as records and things, those are serious, and they're just setting the stage and letting everybody know. Judge Gull engaged in additional violations of the Access to Court. Not only did we do it once, again, Records Act. Judge Gull failed to address her administrative duties, and that was on paying them. And I think last night in Criminalities, I made the point of during chat and of that Judge Gull, they were complaining in this section that Judge Gull was not paying them their fees fast enough or quick enough, and that showed that she's biased. And I can see, whereas we all, money is leverage. These attorneys, while some attorneys do work certain cases pro bono and no fees, but when you're getting paid, money is leverage. And even when we in our daily lives, if we don't like somebody, we don't pay them. We make it as hard for them to get their paycheck until they come around to our way of thinking. And so I think that's a pretty strong argument there, but we'll see. Judge Gull failed to protect the accused. No, I disagree with that one probably more than any of them so far. Number 16, Judge Gull continue an ongoing failure to protect the accused, just doubling it up. Judge Gull has treated the prosecution more favorably than defense counsel. And I don't know if that's fair or not. I really don't. I probably would say that is something that you'll often see, and that these judges that I've known in my life, if they came from the prosecution side of the table, then they were more biased in that manner. They let certain things occur, but does that mean that it's not a fair trial? No. But they may have arguments and have more hearings, not so much in front of the jury, but they may have a hearing just to get clarification more for certain acts. 18, Judge Gull engaged in unacceptable extrajudicial activities, and we'll have to see where that goes. Timing of judicial bias, prejudice, and lack of impartiality. And like I said, it's all word salad on a lot of these things. Do I think it's going to carry any weight? Nah. But anyway, Richard Allen signed it and says this, that there's bias. All right, before I get too far behind, let's see what else is going on in chat. I'm way behind, guys. I get caught up in chat right quick, see if there's any questions. Let's see what's going on. Almost back to where I was supposed to be. Yeah, I'm getting there now. Thank you guys for bearing with me tonight. It's a little hard to get some of this stuff organized without Mrs. Steve. Here we go. And this is a fair argument from 74. These attorneys will create chaos regardless who the judge is. Why should she recuse? Attorneys always cause chaos. That's why a judge is there. If prosecution and the defense didn't have some type of chaos happening in the courtroom, there wouldn't be any need for a judge. And that's all they're there. They're the refs. They try to keep the chaos under some type of reasonable expectation so that it doesn't violate any rights of the accused, and that the jury can understand what's going on with the presentation. Hello, Dwayne's Prospecting Adventures. Good to see you. Glad you're here. Yes, this is the same judge that had the medical emergency and is now here for I don't know how long, but we'll see. Frederica, good to see you. Let's see here. Peter Jackson. No, I'm not 007. Oh, that's funny. Bias against these attorneys or bias against their actions. And that's what this statement here. On October 31st, 2023, Judge Francis Gull told Allen, she was speaking to Allen, I cannot and will not allow these attorneys to represent you. And it's almost like that motherly decision of, I'm not going to let you ride with so-and-so. They're idiots. Or they have bad things I don't approve of. They're doing things that are not right. We've all seen it in our families. And that's why I take this statement that yes, she absolutely in this statement says, I cannot and will not allow these attorneys to represent you. And that's what I base that. Yes, she has a strong dislike. Now, is that dislike based upon something that's unreasonable? That's where it may not be biased. But does she dislike these attorneys? Yes. And it's to the point of what is reasonable and unreasonable. And that's what she's going to have to do some soul searching on. And that's what all judges have to soul search on. It's just not this judge. As you'll see after we get through a certain part of this presentation, that this is something that occurs constantly in the court system. What's happening in Indiana is not a one-time thing. It happens constantly across the country. Uh, there's courts, there's thousands and thousands of trials, and there's thousands of articles about judicial bias and what goes on in the courts and how the judges are aware of this and how the attorneys are aware of this. This isn't something that Rossi and Baldwin just dreamed up. Um, they understand that this is part of the system and it's argued constantly. It's not just with Indiana. And while this case may be new in the first case that you've ever watched in with such interest, and you think that this is so outlandish that it uh, of what is occurring, it's not. There's other courts, these higher courts, they have precedents that are set, um, and as you'll see here in this case, William versus Pennsylvania, a true case of judicial bias. And this is articles. I've got a bunch of articles. Go out there and type in on whatever search engine you got. Type in judicial biases, judges' biases against clients, judges' biases against uh, attorneys. And you'll see that there's hundreds and thousands of articles. It's something that happens across the country. And you look at those dates, and it's everything every year they have these where there's these disputes and it occurs. And the court system is set up to understand that, yes, we know that there's judicial bias that exists, but can that individual that's sitting in front of that judge, will they get a fair trial? And that's the thing we have to understand, that regardless if Judge Gull was absolutely the most biased judge that ever existed, that would there's still protections that once the upper courts and it goes through the appeal process, he will be protected. There'll be another trial in front of another judge that won't have that. And so there's protections built into the system. So let's not jump the gun and say that this is Richard Allen's only chance. No, he'll have far more rights. And we see that a lot. You know, people say that, you know, the victims, and and I'm biased for that. I absolutely um, um, that when someone is there's enough evidence, and it absolutely says that we have, without a doubt, the DNA, we have everything, the witnesses, video, whatever, and without a doubt that this criminal, he's confessed to it, he said he did it, that that individual still at some point can have appeal process and work through the court system. And I don't like that. I have biases against that. Oh, man. Oh, me. And let's see, kind of get caught back up with a chat here, guys. Just hold on with me for a minute. What happened with Metal Mama Michelle? I'm sorry to see that there's people in chat that's concerned. Oh, lost an animal. Yes, Mrs. Steve and I, and we absolutely love our animals. Olivia too. Can't get into chat. I see you, Olivia. So you're here. E. Warner says, I've heard that appeals that are granted are based on what the judge has done, sometimes wrong or incorrect, and not on anything the jury has ever said. Yes, and that's just part of the process, that certain things and appeals are filed all the time. It's built into the system. We've already seen, although these specific attorneys, when they got reinstated, it was ran up and fast tracked by other attorneys saying that we don't think this is right. So we got to see something unique in this case, but it's something that the court system has seen time and time again. There's nothing going to catch the court off guard. I mean, we can go all the way to the Supreme Court. You're not going to catch the court system off guard. There's processes regardless. The Sixth Amendment, yeah, I mean, this semantics and that choice of counsel, but the courts may cite precedents, and they'll use those precedents of uh, when they make their decisions. Let's see what's going on. Laura Smith says, it just seems that there is a new trend for defense in many cases is to attack and scrutinize a judge in high profile cases, in my opinion. And that's what this presentation is for, is that when you look at these articles, and like I said, I just went in there and just typed in everything from judge being biased. And there's one article that's titled, yes, court bias exists and judges must attack it. And so these articles are written, people investigate it all the time, and it's taught to it's in the schools, the law, it's taught to these future attorneys, and they understand and they're prepared for this. Like I said, Rozzi and Baldwin just didn't say, "Oh, let's look in the dictionary and find a word that describes this judge." It's something that's real and it's out there, and it's a long known fact that judges can be biased, and when they are, there's a process, and if they fail to eliminate themselves, and obviously they're biased, then of course there will be certain steps taken on further down to correct that. And so, do I think that Judge Gull will probably step away? I would rather she would. Now, will she? And that's going to be where she has to do that soul searching, that have I done something that is unreasonable, that meets the definition of unreasonable? So we'll just have to see. Here is another article, acknowledging and protecting against judicial bias at fact finding in juvenile court. This was interesting for the fact that in juvenile court, there's not juries. And so you have judges that are the fact finders. They act in the place of the juries. And so they even have an article about the juvenile court system and how the judges in those have to be absolutely scrutinized and make sure that they look at the stuff and that they don't have certain biases against anyone. And here's another one. What is a judicial bias? And then bias, discrimination, and harassment. Rules for judges and lawyers. Because the lawyers can have biases. Do I think that Baldwin and Rozzi are biased against Judge Gull? Absolutely. Just as much as I think that she's biased and against them. But there's rules, not only for the judges, but for the lawyers themselves and how to proceed. And is it unreasonable how Baldwin and Rozzi feel about Judge Gull? That's where they have to soul search and see if what they think is reasonable and unreasonable. And here's another article, how to confront bias in the criminal justice system. And like I said, I encourage you to go out there and look at it. Like I said, these articles are written by papers, law in different papers and distributions and online research and college students and journalists across the country. It's just not one state. And so when you go to whichever your preferred reading is, you'll find it. And it's absolutely amazing that there's so much coverage of this. And yet most people think that this is the case that is the case to end all biases. It's not. When this case is over, there's going to be another one that fills it. And people will argue once again. They'll be so focused on that case and have certain biases towards that case that they won't be able to see past that. This is something that the courts are prepared to handle. All right, let's see what's going on. Mm. Fur baby, given the air of corruption around this case, is it possible Gull is being blackmailed or directed by an outside force? The only guiding force that she has as a judge is the laws of the state of Indiana and how that she'll rule on her finding and make decisions and judgments to ensure that Richard Allen has a fair trial. That's what guides her. If there's, you know, she, even if she was, and let's just knock it off the table, even if someone was, and there, if it ever came out that she was being blackmailed or directed by an outside force, that information would automatically take something to the, and it would be recognized, and it'd go through the process. And so, no, I don't think that will is something that's occurring. But even if it was, the court systems will handle it. Personally, I think she should step down, let the trial go forward. It would stop any feelings of her being prejudiced. Yeah, I think there's a slightly better chance than not that she may step down. I really do. And I wish she would, but, you know, it doesn't matter. There will be so much oversight on this case. And like I said, these attorneys are setting the stage. And Metal Mama says, no one seems to care that the defense leaked sealed documents. And that's the thing, is that these attorneys aren't without dirty hands. They did things that were not what the officers of the court should have done. They shared, they allowed, they did certain things and made certain statements. And are we at the truth of the matter? I mean, we had prosecution file some paperwork additionally that shed more light on what they thought were some misdeeds as far as the defense. And once again, we have everybody casting. We'll probably find out that there's no innocent parties whatsoever in this case, including the attorneys. Thank you, Nana72. That's very kind of you to say. Hello, Mr. Steve. This is from Madison Stephen. If Judge Gull gets removed from the case, can the defense team try again to have the search warrant removed? I think some of those hearings are one and done. Now, that doesn't mean that the next judge won't review it and maybe say, oh, I have a different opinion, to verify that there wasn't some type of bias. And the attorneys may bring up that, yes, now that she's gone, she was biased when she rejected that. Could they have hearings? I expect so, but I'm sure there's a process for that. And this is CJK hit it, absolutely hit the nail on the head. Had they acted with integrity to their client and to the state and to the families, this would have helped their client versus harming. And some of their misdeeds and allowances and sharing information and sending emails, not notifying that, oh, we had a breach, did something silly, did something stupid. And I do something stupid every day when I turn on this machine. You can ask Mrs. Steve last night. I fell asleep with my computer in my lap last night and woke up, and it, whatever screen I was on when I fell asleep, it said sign out. And so when I signed out of something I wasn't supposed to sign out of. But 6 hours later, we were good to go. had to reset a lot of things. But Mrs. Steve worked through the matter, and she just, as always, just shakes her head, smiles, and we go on. She, because when I woke up and looked at my phone, she says, I can't get into these. We're signed out. What happened? And so I had to explain. Um, sometimes you just hit the wrong button on these machines. But not all of them go to the state Supreme Court. That's true. They there's either the lower courts handle it, and when the if it doesn't make it to the lower courts, then it's because there's not reason to take it. Just because an attorney says that yes, it should go there, doesn't mean it will go there. Those courts have to recognize and accept that there is a possibility, and then that happens all the way up through the Supreme Courts. Not that I know much about law, but have never heard of a judge being thrown off. Uh, this is the Williams versus Pennsylvania, and there are judges out there that's been removed and taken up, and they've been looked at. And Supreme Court, which is in this case, and this was a federal um, case, that there was judicial bias, um, and that the defendant was unfairly proceedings were done, and they appealed it, and it was ruled on by the same judge at one point had acted and had knowledge of the case. And so, of course, that was what got this one, that there was a judicial bias. And a 72, learning how to do things on here, but get eventually. Me and you both. I'm gonna have. I've been threatening to have a Google machine um, uh, seminar for those the uneducated. I want to thank the mods for keeping and working with everybody. Appreciate you, mods. Couldn't do it without y'all. Alley Cat says, honestly, I think Gull should recuse herself. Not saying I disagree with her rulings, but at this point, it's the right thing to do. That's a fair enough statement. I absolutely agree. Yes, and this is absolutely so sad that that everybody's focused so much on what's happening with this process, and it's that it's more of the topic right now. But at some point, Crazy Town will get leveled out, and the storm will pass. And you know, a few weeks ago, someone asked that, do I think now that the Supreme Court of Indiana had ruled that it's going to settle down? And I said, no. Once you get into Crazy Town, you live there for a long time, and we're living there right now. But at some point, we're going to have to get evicted out of there and get it moved on down the street. Olivia too says, I'm here now. Good to see you. Let's see here. Mr. Steve, do you think the Odinist docs were put out because of RA's confession and what they may have found after searching his property? I do. And reading that short story, I think that's the best way to address it, because it's nothing I have ever seen or read that was written in the manner to be read by great minds of law. It was written to be read by the public at large, in my opinion. And it was a strange document, and it released a lot of information. It threw a lot of people under the bus, and we'll just have to see what the final say on that is, because we have the same attorneys that released that Franks motion are the same attorneys that are doing this bias document. And so, yeah, Was it based totally upon his confessions? It did. Um, I guess you could say that if you wanted to shut down his confession talks and change the topic and deflect, there's a lot of people out there really great at deflecting. And I believe that Frank's document was if their intent was to deflect, they knocked it out of the park because everyone forgot about the confessions. So that's a good statement. That's a good observation. Alley cat, you've got the whole line of animals. You got a zoo. Yeah, if you hit the like button, I'd appreciate it. Thank you, Olivia, too. Super sticker $5. Appreciate it. There's your blue light. Um, actually, I was talking to Unearthed Secrets earlier tonight, texting back and forth about we have a template now from the University of Florida as far as uh, getting prepared for our summer. And we're trying to determine what cases and what states we're going to be looking at. And so we appreciate all and everyone's support. Little Mama, $5. Justice for Abby and Libby. Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate your support. Kimosabe says Barbara McDonald of Court TV was talking about the placement of the runes before the lawyers were appointed. Says she got the information from her sources close to the investigations, as I recall. And I believe you are correct. Um, but is that true? I don't know. Uh-oh. I've heard of people getting unsubscribed on YouTube. It never happened to me until today. Got unsubscribed from True Crime Web. Sometimes, and I see that. I see my subs go up and down all the time, and it may be done for certain algorithms go in there for certain if certain things don't occur that they clean the records for whatever reason or um, take people off. It's a constant struggle to grow. And that's something everyone must remember that the images taken, we have no idea what generation they are and what alterations could have occurred, when they occurred, by who. And so we have no knowledge how accurate those images are. And they're not all the images. You know, you don't just have 5, 10, 20. I mean, if you took every image that's been related and said it's some part of the crime scene from way back when to now, you're probably still only looking at less than 20 or 30 images. But of all those images, there's hundreds, if not thousands of them. Because now with digital, any uh, video you can pull images from. And this is something that the prosecution brought up in some of their filings that his attorneys intentionally violated gag order minimum of 3 times. In my opinion, Gull gave them 3 chances. She could have dismissed them after the first violations with a hearing. And that's a fair enough statement. I would agree. But we didn't have those hearings. And so, LT Easterly. I concur completely. That's a great statement. I concur. I love that. I used to work with a guy that we'd be sitting, no matter what the topic, you could ask him, uh, uh, how's your breakfast? Is it good? I concur. It didn't matter what you asked him. I concur. Steve, any guess as to when the judge will decide? I would think rather quickly, because we need to move on. Um, you know, and uh, I think, like I said, it's going to be pretty quick. It's not something that's going to be drug out for months. The Supreme Court already said, let's get this ball rolling. Miss anything? I apologize. It was written like a ninth grade English student. I think the national. I think isn't the average educational level something like eighth grade. So I would agree. Was that um, done purposefully, and may have been for that exact reason? That if that's what the and that's a good point. That if you write it for a certain age group or educational level, um, for it to be read by those, you have to write it in such a manner that they'll understand it. Huh, interesting. I love my chat. I love my people, my community. Question for Steve: was there a certain gag order for the defense attorneys as well for the prosecution? No, a gag order is for all the officers of the court here in Georgia, I reckon. Uh, Subterfuge, deceit used in order to achieve one goal. Yeah, I hope that's not the case. The defense doesn't stand for the truth; they stand for their client. I don't know, whose quote is that? That's an interesting quote. Oh, Robin B. Good evening, Mr. Steve. In chat, your opinion. Do you believe this trial will be quick or will it drag on for several weeks? Justice for Abby and Libby and their families. I think it will be several weeks of absolute um, chaos if we continue along this trail. Will a new judge be able to settle it down? Um, I believe so. I don't even know if he'll go to trial. I think at a certain point that if he is, and they can't, and I say this for this reason, that if they can't address that confession of his, and they can't address and get that bullet removed from the crime scene, um, that is huge. Um, those two things, the court, I mean, the defense attorneys are going to have to separate themselves and Richard Allen from them. They're going to have to be able to explain them because the prosecution will introduce that to the jury. No ifs, ands, or buts. And if now they'll have hearings on what can be presented to the jury, but if the judge rules, regardless if it's this judge or any judge that says, yes, we're going to get that bullet, we're going to allow that unspent round to be presented to the jury, then the defense is going to have to figure out some way to separate themselves. If they can't get it suppressed, then that's a huge issue. And then on that confession, once again, what is word for word in that so-called comments made as a confession or interpreted or referenced by the law enforcement as a confession. And so that will be very interesting. Runes, that's as far as the of the Odinist character, not destructive runes. In Georgia, you have to go with my southern accent. I can butcher the King's language heartbeat. DP, Mr. Steve, DP. I don't know if you meant to do that or not, but that's oh man, Mr. Steve. If the judge recuses herself, would that delay the trial even more? And if so, how long? No, I don't. There's a process for that. Just like we saw when the last judge, there'll be a hearing. They'll sign somebody, of the higher courts, and they will take it up and go right along. Um, will it be a long? No, I don't think so. Little farmer. And get called up here, guys. I don't know. Is Judge Gull able to make any rulings before the defense motion to remove her is decided? Um, I heard she couldn't. I don't know. That's a good question. Hopefully, somebody will know that answer. I hadn't heard that. If you have a link to where that is mentioned, I'd appreciate it. And I think the judge has to make the decision on this if she's going to recuse herself. So it doesn't make sense that she wouldn't be able to make some type of decisions. I'm trying to get caught up. I'm not too far behind. No, I'm getting caught up, guys. I'm just a minute or two behind. Southern Gal, True Crime. I'm going to have to research this Odinist thing. I've never heard of it until this case. I'm with you. I've never heard of such. Me and you are on the same page with that one. DP, another question. If Richard Allen pleads guilty, is he required to tell the court exactly what happened? You know, we've seen that in California of where the Golden State guy didn't have to. And then we saw where BTK, he did, in different state. So we'll just have to see what type of plea deal is made. Golden tones. My speech has been referenced in a lot of ways, but never golden tones. All righty, guys. Well, I finally got caught up with everything, but I appreciate everybody being here. Let me go up here and uh, thank y'all for being here tonight. Thank y'all for being mindful and respectful of each other. And like I said, hopefully Mrs. Steve will be back this weekend. And of course, she'll be with us next week if everything works out well. But if y'all, okay, thanks, Mr. Steve, for answering my question. By the way, DP is only my initials. Yeah, my dark humor and dark mind goes certain ways, certain times. But and anyone named DP, If they did it for the other reason, their dark humor would be showing also. But we want to thank everybody for being here. Y'all take care, stay safe out there, and we'll see y'all soon. Like, subscribe, share it with everybody, and see y'all soon, guys.